Ready?
Hello and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, a video game music podcast. This is episode 25-10. This is the end of season 25 of Rhythm and Pixels, a video game music podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Rob Nichols.
And we're coming for you, Simpsons.
We're going to have more seasons than The Simpsons. I don't know. Every week we listen to great video game music from the past, from the present, from all consoles, from all generations. We pick a topic, we find guests, we listen to the music, and then we grab some dinner and we do it again next week. That's what we do on the show.
Sometimes with the dinner from the previous week.
Hey, Pernell, how you doing in Control? How far have you gotten, man?
Honestly, I don't even know what constitutes as far, but I play bits and pieces. I haven't even gotten the ability to levitate yet. But I am launching stuff.
Good.
And I got a little concerned when people were commenting and saying, like, there's very little enemy variety at first, but then I started thinking, and I was like, I loved Alan Wake to death, and that game had all like 3 or 4 enemy types.
Yeah, you're gonna fight you're gonna fight guards that have some similar abilities to you. That's about it. But I mean, you know what? They gave me a hard time. Maybe I'll give you a hard time.
And as long as the game works, I mean, it works. Like Alan Wake, you fought lumberjacks and bikers and all kinds of stuff, but at the end of the day, they were just people that were covered in shadows that needed flashlighting. So, I mean, it didn't change anything, but the dialogue they had, the story, and the atmosphere made it all worthwhile. And I'm expecting that from Control.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's just so rare that you're playing a game that I've finished or played. So
I know. It's an oddity, but that's why I got to make it work. It's like, I can play a game and say, Rob, I got attacked by a freaking floppy disk, and that was strange.
All right, so
let's talk about it.
I'm playing Persona 5. I'm at the end of the palace, right? And there's a thing you can do that kind of kicks off the final run of the palace to do the boss fight. But I still had 15 days in the real world where I can work my job and go to a batting cage and eat hamburgers and go to school.
You can technically do that.
But
finish the palace
and go, because I was like, I'll send the calling card and then I'll go do the boss and I'll have time in between that because I want to make one final run through the palace to collect any treasure chests that I might have missed. And so it started doing it and I was like, okay, here we go. This is it. Everyone, we're going to fight the boss. And I was like, wait a minute. No, I have like 15 days. I got to go to work.
There's no time
to save. Convenience store that needs me.
That's right. Bag those chips.
So that's me discovering Persona 5 for the first time.
It's a fantastic game. Honestly, I still recommend it to people. Haters be damned.
Yeah, haters. Who are you? And we like you. Keep listening. Anyway, on the show this week, we also have.
Wait! Don't do that yet.
What?
Because there's a lead-in. There's a there's proper lead-in for this.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna sip my tea.
And this is very.
I'm gonna let you take over.
All right, this is very appropriate for the scope of who this is too. But so, as we all know, I'm typically quite the fan of obscure games, and this guy is drinking some very loud brew. I'm a big fan of obscure titles and like games that I generally expect a lot of people to have not heard of. You thirsty bastard! but honestly, you wouldn't expect it. But I actually know people who played far more obscure games than I have in such a way that they may even host their own obscure games music group. In this case, it's a friend and also a fellow podcaster on the SML podcast. We have Chris Taylor on the show.
Hi.
Hello.
Chris, thank you for joining us.
It's so nice to be talking. I'm sorry?
Thanks for joining us. I'll stop interrupting you.
No, thank you for having me. It's fantastic to be in a second podcast with Pernell.
Well, wait a minute. You guys said you had not talked to each other before.
No, you said in person.
Oh,
said in person.
Yeah, we've been on the SML podcast together for years now.
Yeah. So and that's why it was always funny. Like we would be on the show together, and we were hanging out and chatting on there for years. And then one day I discovered he also ran this group I've been in for months. I was like, wait a minute. That's very odd, not expected.
Yeah, I joined the group because of you, and I'm like, oh, this is great. This is like, just awesome music of stuff I've never heard of before. Just just every day, every week. It's fantastic. So, Chris, how did you get interested in this niche little world that Pernell and I are in love with?
Well, I've always been into, like, just... I think it's because, like, when I grew up with the NES, my grandmother was, like, accidentally a total badass when it came to video game selection for her grandkids to play when they're over at her house.
Nice.
So, like, I had, like, the typical, Legend of Zelda, Ninja Gaiden, Mario things to play at home. But, like, she had Journey to Silius, and...
What?
Yeah, and, like, I think she bought me Metal Storm at one point.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, I know she bought me Metal Storm at some point because I had Metal Storm, but I'm saying, like, I don't know that she knew anything about games. As far as I knew, the only one that she ever played was Jack Nicklaus's 18 Holes of Professional Golf.
that leads right into Metal Storm,
title, right? That's like it's somewhere mashed together on the art box, right?
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, I'm gonna get this right.
I mean, Metal Storm was the sequel.
Oh, I missed a word. Jack Nicklaus's greatest 18 holes of major championship golf.
That is one long title, and I'm surprised it fit on the cover.
That leads me to believe that it's a hole from every course that he's played on.
I mean,
It's an anthology.
Knowing nothing about Jack Nicklaus, I mean, I have to assume
a Jack Nicklaus's
that
dream
exactly
course
what it is.
is what it is. It's Kirby.
See,
versus
don't tease me. I would play that. I would play that
Kirby,
with great zest.
That evil Kirby that he fights against, Nega Kirby, and Jack Nicklaus.
He absorbs Jack.
It's not a bad game at all. It was put out by Konami, I think.
Oh, it means it probably had great music then.
I don't remember.
It's like, actually, it was just birds chirping and the occasional
It could
crowd.
have been. Sometimes they would do that. Like, it'd be a Konami game, but, like, barely any soundtrack. And I'm like, what is this nonsense? Because sometimes they would just, like, publish or something. I don't know.
Well,
I gotta say, though, one thing I just wanted to bring, because it just came to mind, you mentioned how it was in your case, it was your grandmother who did this. But, like, I love hearing people's stories of, like, random adults in their lives that brought games to them that weren't their parents. Because normally it's, mom and dad brought games in the house, and as such. In my case, I had my uncle and then the neighbor who made ice cream, which is his own story. But,
we need that story later, by the way.
Oh, I have no problem sharing it. It's probably one of my favorite childhood stories. But so it's awesome hearing you say, she just happened to bring me a Metal Storm and say, here, play this one and hang out in the house.
Yeah, and funny enough, at one point when I was like old enough, it was like, okay, we'll let you pick your own game. Let's go to Walmart, and we go there, and I'm looking at all the covers of the games, and even though, like I said, my grandmother had picked out all of these great games for me and stuff, the game I picked out for myself was freaking Dragon's Lair. On the NES.
You tried.
That's what happens, man. Like, as kids, like we see like games based off of like movies, and we're like, well, the movie was really cool and R-rated, so maybe the game's going to be cool and R-rated. Dragon's Lair had awesome animation. I saw that in the arcade. Maybe that's going to be cool on the NES, and then it never is. It never was.
I really think it was just like I saw a dragon and the guy with a sword, and I was like, that's good enough.
Yeah.
They look like they're in some sort of lair. Yeah. I like lairs.
There's a lair involved.
Well,
and it just kind of spiraled from there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that was just like, that's what I remembered being like, when I make my own decisions when it comes to NES games, like buying them sight unseen, then, I make terrible mistakes. Whereas, like I said, the games that were already there, like, were so much better. So yeah, I grew up with like obscure games already like that, and I was always really into the music. I also, two games that I remember we bought, and this was my mom that bought these. We went to KB Toy, or one of those places that sold NES games back then.
No, it was KB Toys, because that store was the most hopping, bad ass game store in town.
All right. Well, it must have been that then.
Pernell worked at KB Toys for a long time, just letting you know.
Oh, okay.
Or a long time, maybe a short time.
It was wild.
A significant portion
Maybe
of life.
a short time in the universal scale.
Right.
But yeah, so we picked out 2 budget games, and they both really stuck with me musically, and that was Snake, Rattle, and Roll.
Ooh,
and
rare.
Destination Earthstar, which is Gary Kitchen's Battle Tank, but in space.
Awesome.
See, already, we haven't even picked tracks yet. You've already named a game I've never heard of.
Well, we should let our
And I had it as a kid.
Oh, man. We should let our listeners know that our topic this week is not just obscure games, it's obscure music from obscure games.
Yeah.
With obscure people.
So games you haven't heard of with music from the games that the games haven't heard of, right?
Oh, okay.
No, I have no idea.
The games are unaware of this music. Yeah.
It's like, wow, unused track 4? Pff, I had no idea.
But I may have gone far too back with my history of how I started a Facebook group. But anyway, so like, and as a teenager, I had a Sony handheld mini tape recorder.
Yeah.
Like one of those that Norm Macdonald would make notes to himself on. Literally, it's why I bought it, was to do that gag.
Lick.
And yeah, and I remember I recorded music from Metal Storm so I could just listen to it. And I also recorded music from Roland's Curse on the Game Boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of the only people I know that had heard of Roland's Curse.
Man, I had Roland's
Yeah.
Curse.
Exactly. We're a trifecta of Roland's Cursed.
For a lot of people who are video game music podcasters and who are super interested in video game music, that's a very typical story where, like, as a kid or as a teenager, we would record music from like an NES or from a Genesis or from a Game Boy so we could listen to it like later on or just on its own, and then in the future
my high school,
in the car, you know.
like my high school best friend and I were in like we were sitting like in math class in the back singing the Goemon 64 theme song.
Yes.
The Gum, but it's so good. People were like, "What the hell's wrong with this?" I was like, "Oh, they're the nerds. Don't worry about them."
I love that song, by the way.
It's
I really love it.
Good.
Yeah. So, you know, like, it was always like that, and I was always like trying to learn video game music on instruments, and then, you know, sometime in my 20s, finally found other people and started a video game band. And it was around that time that I was like really diving into YouTube and going down rabbit holes trying to find obscure stuff. And also I had like, that's when I started doing like downloading NSF players and SPC players, and like mostly to try and figure out how to separate the parts so I could learn them. But then it became like this thing where I was just like diving through lists of games, and I even modded 2 different MP3 players to play that stuff. And so it just became this thing where, like, anytime I had a spare moment, I was looking up like soundtracks and listening to them sight unseen. And yeah, I discovered so many things that kind of like became this baseline for like my tastes. And now it's kind of like 90% of what I listen to nowadays is just video game music, and like, you know, 10% is music that my friends have made.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, I don't think I bought a current like music CD in like at least 5 years.
Well, let's say this then. So let's say you need to travel across the country or something like that. You know, gotta get in the car 8, 9, 10 hours. What's your go-to? What's going to be on your driving mix?
Okay, so that is always like it tends to be a spur of the moment thing, especially since I now have like Spotify and like YouTube works on my phone. I have the premium, so I can listen to it in sleep mode. So like I like to go through playlists and do that stuff, but there's some things that I've done before, such as on the last, I think in 2016, I had to drive to MagFest by myself.
Ooh, now that's a trek for you.
Yeah, from the middle of Texas. So it was about a 26-hour drive. One of those hours was spent entirely only listening to Magician Lord Stage 2 on repeat.
I honestly love when that happens. And it's hard to say, like, have you ever had the desire to do that, but if you have someone else in the car, you're like, well, I can't subject them to this. But when you're alone, you're like, yeah, loop,
Like, oh, that's right. Battletoads pause music for 2 hours. That's what's happening right here.
I mean, like all people have all kinds of stuff. But yeah, usually I will take like an entire video game soundtrack and just listen to the whole thing. I actually, and funny enough, I brought a Matt Furniss song. I like to listen to Matt Furniss soundtracks. I like Pugsy, Wiz and Liz, Boogerman is my favorite. And yeah, I'll throw one of those on. Alberto Gonzalez, another favorite composer to just like hit play at the start of a playlist and just listen to all of it. I find myself listening to Magician a lot from Neil Baldwin. And Japanese composers too. I guess they're not all European.
Yeah, well, I mean, Neil Baldwin, Matt Furniss, like Tim Fallon, we're the heavy hitters right there, and Jose about Joe McAlby, like they're just all like right up there. But let's start.
And with Purnell, like, I listen to stuff.
Yeah, Pro listens to things. It's either going to be circus music or heavy metal.
Pretty much, or circus metal.
Circus metal. All right, so let's get into some tunes. So we asked you to bring some of your favorite obscure tracks or some interesting stuff to share with us. Purnell and I also dug deep and found some interesting stuff. I dug deep into my history of when I worked in arcades back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So we got some interesting music.
I think it's funny because I think we all came at this from different ways. Yeah. Like, I honestly intentionally looked for like obscure but fairly recent games because I wanted to be like, you can play this right now, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I recognized two of the games that you chose from. So, but you picked. We all picked more music than was necessary for the show, so we can figure this out. All right, so Chris, what's the first track you want to go with?
Okay, this is Daffy Duck in Hollywood, I'm guessing.
All right, yeah.
Cool, yeah. I didn't know what order.
You win!
I mean,
I should have checked the notes.
That's okay. It's just you can go back and even pick new stuff and be like, we're gonna play Barbie's Dream House Adventure.
Yeah.
There's somehow music we have that.
Yeah. So I'm brought. Are we gonna listen to it, or are we gonna talk about it first?
Well, let's introduce it. This is the menu and level select music from Daffy Duck in Hollywood, composed by Matt Furniss. But this is the Sega Master System arrangement, which I didn't know existed. So I'm really excited to have this on this show. Here we go. Listening to menu and level select music from the game Daffy Duck in Hollywood for the Sega Master System, composed by Matt Furniss. Oh, it's so good. I love this song.
It's on fire!
And the reason I picked that one, besides the fact that, of course, it's great, is that Matt Furniss himself posted it in Hidden Sound Test, which is my Facebook group of Obscurities. Ooh. Yeah. The unexpected, I made the group originally for just 10 friends of mine who I knew were interested in obscure video game music, but it started growing a lot, and now it's close to 3,000 members, I think, and pretty early on, a few composers found it and joined and started posting, and one of them was Matt Furniss, who would, gladly talk about like some stuff that he had made, and there's a lot of also like crossover promotion, if you will. Like Matt Furniss posted the time tracks on Genesis soundtrack and talked about Tim Follin, and because that's like Tim Follin's one and only Genesis soundtrack.
Yeah.
And Alberto Gonzalez joined. Alexander Brandon joined.
Alberto Gonzalez is very active online. Like he posts on Twitter all the time, and he's looking up. He's like finding the old hardware and software that he used on the Game Boy, and just talking. Yeah. Like it's really cool that these classic composers are really open about their process and really proud of the work that they did. Yeah, we love Alberto at Hidden Sound Test. So, and yeah, he's there all the time. Even we had Tommy Tallarico join, and he posted a track. Big Tommy T. I don't know. No one calls him that. Maybe I call him that.
I don't know.
He's like, well, I was like, I call him that because we go way back.
way back.
But we had a bunch of composers like sort of join, and so that track kind of represents just a fine moment for me. Was like to have the composer sharing this great track that I had never heard of. That indeed. Hits all of the, it checks all the boxes for Obscurities.
I mean, this game already, like on the Genesis or Mega Drive, was not super well known, and this music I think was just in the menu or maybe it's an unused track on the Genesis, and it's the bass and the sweeping pads and the synths are incredible, and I was like, this is Daffy Duck, and to hear that, it was not only was it like kind of an oddball out of the Genesis version. That it was arranged again for 3 voices in the noise channel Master System beatbox on the Master System. Like it still sounds incredible. It's really well like designed. Like this track is well designed.
Yeah, like I mean, Furniss is just absolutely a master of the Master System of just Sega. Sega chip music in general. So yeah, I think he kind of blew up his Facebook presence, or maybe he blocked me. I don't know. Randomly, I can't find any of his stuff anymore in the group, so I couldn't find the post where he talked about that, which I wanted to, but I was like, well, whatever. The music speaks for itself.
He realized that he spoke too much, and they came looking for him, so he had to tear it all down.
Well, I could never, I never know when somebody is like really bothered by my online presence, so they just like block me or something, because I'm kind of a scrappy leftist, so I think I occasionally say stuff that people are like,
Sure as heck beats being a scrappy dude, so I think at the end of the day you made out better on that.
Heck yeah.
You're in good company, by the way, so don't worry about that.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, whoever like does that online or like just disappears or ghosts or whatever, you know what, they have their reasons, and I respect them for that. So
exactly, he might have just disappeared or something.
Yeah,
so
absolutely,
more power to him.
Cool. Pernell, I was wondering, did you have any Master System experience?
A little. So back in the day, Nintendo was like the system that people had because it was the one that everyone talked about. But we had one neighbor who had a Sega Master System, and I played a few games on his system, most particularly Alex Kidd. And later on down the line, though, I ended up getting a Sega Power Base converter for the Genesis, which it only works on the Model 1 Genesis. I actually still have it at my mom's house in her closet. It's still sitting in there.
Alex Kidd was like built into that thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But not into the unless I'm misremembering, but it wasn't built into the Power Base converter, but it was built into the original Master System, I think.
All the add-ons for this thing sounds like really hardcore equipment that an electrician would use.
It's a really cool name,
Power
isn't
Base
it?
Converter.
It's such a cool name for it, and all it really was just like a seat that you put on top of the Genesis that lets you play Master System games. So we had that, and we played some Master System games on it. But to be perfectly honest, they weren't particularly memorable for me. And it's not a slap on the system or anything like that. It was just by this point in time, Nintendo just kind of had a stronghold at that point. So it was like, well,
the system, like the Nintendo little gray box, compared to like the Sega Master System and the Sega Genesis, those are cool looking pieces of plastic. Like I still think that the first generation Sega Genesis Mega Drive is like one of the coolest looking consoles.
It had a headphone volume dial.
And the Sega Master System, if I'm remembering it correctly, looked like a Knight Rider. It was super cool.
I just assumed that the Genesis, like Sega, was like one of the only companies who knew even back then. It's like you might want to be playing a game at a time where you don't want anyone else in the house to hear the noise that you're playing. So you want to just jack your headphones in and play to your heart's content. Well, we got you covered, kid. If you're a grown man who want to bother the family, or if you're a kid who doesn't want his parents to know he's staying up way too late, we got your back.
I definitely wore the headphones when playing Sonic Spinball because nobody else wanted to hear that.
Hey, I love the OST of Sonic Spinball, most particularly the freaking lava stage.
Yeah. I love the first stage as well, the Toxic Swamps. But,
Toxic Swamps is such a classic funk track.
I'm going to just state it so we don't get caught by some wackadoo toxic caves. So we're not going to get caught. Actually, guys.
What was I saying?
Like,
toxic,
nope.
What?
Oh, did I say swamp? I meant
swamp.
caves. Caves.
Now, he's our guest. If he wants to say Toxic Swamp, he can say
That makes me want to play Kid Chameleon, though.
Yeah. All right, so coming up next is my pick. So I tried to remember all of the arcade that I worked at back in the late 90s and early 2000s was called Funscape. It was 2 levels of arcade games connected to a movie theater. And
a go-kart track.
And a go-kart track, which was very dangerous. It was
fun.
Not a good idea. But anyway, I worked there as a technician and a manager, and I did everything at this park for a long time. And looking back on it, I never realized that they had so many weird, rare arcade games I had never seen anywhere else. That for some reason, maybe they were just trying to fill up space, or there was surplus at a warehouse or something. But there was just so many weird games. And so I went on a YouTube, rabbit hole trying to figure out what these games were. And I finally found one, and it had a release on the PlayStation, but I'm playing the music from the arcade version. This is called the Irritating Maze for the SNK Neo Geo. This game is so weird. And in the arcade, there was like, I'll talk about it when we come back, but it's a very strange puzzle game. It's very Japanese. And in Japan, it's called Ultra Denryu Iraira Bao. And it's apparently a game show, like a live action game show, where someone's trying to.
So it has nothing to do with the irritating stick.
No, it's the game, physically the game, while a bunch of hosts are yelling at this person like in their ear, trying to rattle them. So we're gonna listen to the music from the expert course for the Neo Geo. This is by, I believe it's just members of the SNK sound team. I don't know which composers worked on which track.
Mysterious group of people, yeah.
Yeah, so I do have Masahiko Hataya, Hiroyuki Takei, H. Togashi, and K. Matsueda, who are generally all combined into the SNK sound team. So here we go.
Ooh, K. Matsueda?
Yeah, the K? No, J. we couldn't get K. We only got the J. So here we go. This is the expert course from the Irritating Maze.
And you don't stop. And you don't stop. You proceed. Cause this is what you need. And you don't stop. And you don't stop. You proceed. Cause this is what you need. And you don't stop. And you don't stop. And you don't stop. You proceed. And you don't stop. And you don't stop. You proceed. Cause this is what you need. And you don't stop. And you don't stop. You proceed. Cause this is what you need. And you don't stop.
Okay, you're listening to the expert maze from the Irritating Maze on SNK Neo Geo. This is a very interesting track.
I swear, as I was listening to it and how it would loop, I could just picture Neo Geo not having a ton of money because they're still, trying to push those expensive consoles. So he's like, we need to get some vocals on this track. And the guy comes like, okay, guys, I got you covered. I got a whole song ready to go. And he gets to that first line and proceed. He's ready to go to the next person. It's like, oh, we got enough. You're good. Go home. It's like, but I got a whole song. Like, we don't need it.
There's a few arcade games with that use a lot of generic hip hop samples. So like even at this time, there was a lot of sample records and CDs that were going around to producers. And I think a lot of arcade companies got a hold of them and started using them in their tracks. What's interesting to me is in this one, it's actually pretty clear. Like the bass is crisp, and the drum samples sound really good, and the voice sample is short, but it's pretty clear.
It's also, I'll admit, a sound that I feel would draw me into the machine if I heard it while walking through the arcade.
So the Irritating Maze is, you might remember it from, it's like an old-timey like circus midway game where it's, you imagine a maze of metal tines, in front of you in a weird way, and you have a metal stick, and you have to guide the metal stick between those wires to get to the end. So if the metal stick touches the wires, then it'll complete the circuit and things will light up and you lose the game. So this thing is the game show, I believe, is the same thing, but just really big and really elaborate. And these really loud Japanese the game show hosts are yelling at people because there's like 1 million yen on the line or something crazy like that.
Or they're trying to like distract them.
The arcade game's the same thing, but it's kind of got crazy like mechanics and there's things flashing around, but all you're doing is the exact same thing, trying to move this stick through the maze without touching the sides. But what's interesting and what makes it super obscure is that the SNK cabinet that was released for this game wasn't a standard cabinet. It didn't have a joystick and buttons. It was a trackball.
Oh.
And I remember this because if you miss and hit the sides, the screens flash, a face pops up on the screen, you get yelled at, and there's a little hole in between the speakers on the machine and it blows air at your face.
And a $1,000 fine.
It's crazy. Like I've never seen, and apparently in Japan there was another version where like if you actually make it through, you can get a little printout of like the course that you actually went through, so you can be like, I actually finished it. But yeah, we got weirdly competitive with this game at the arcade. Like it was either a pinball or some weird Japanese game that we got a hold of that we just played over and over again. And it's just a weird game with some weird music and a weird cabinet. I like it.
You proceed.
And proceed.
I always have a special affection for video game music that has vocalizations in it or samples that are vocal but not actually like lyrics.
Yeah. There's
Don't stop.
What's that other SNK game? Baseball Stars has a lot of vocals in that one too.
Yeah.
Hit the ball. Don't hit the ball.
Actually,
swing the bat.
There's a
and
few,
you hit the ball.
There's a few Tommy Tallarico ones where he's like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I can't remember the name of the game, but it's just, you can tell it's his voice, but he's just like yelling something and they just kept reusing the samples. And I'm like,
that's amazing. Yeah, I love that stuff. There's one, I'm actually going to drop it in our chat, but this is I guess could be an unofficial track or something, but Snow Surfers on the Dreamcast Snowman theme is goofy as hell.
It's called Snow Surfers?
Yeah, Snow Surfers.
I like the name at least.
I guess it's also called, let's see, Rippin' Riders maybe?
That sounds familiar.
I think it has a couple of different names. I'm not sure what the US name is, but yeah, anyway.
Rippin'! That's like Snow Surfers.
Oh, anyway, I'm glad that, I hope everyone enjoyed my little nostalgia trip. Right there, just go.
Well, we asked you proceed. You didn't stop. So that says something right there.
Yeah. All right, Pernell, what have you got? Did you bring the heat?
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm not sure if I'm going to beat you. Don't stop. Proceed. I'm just going to say it right now. But at least for the first track, I don't know what I'm going to choose though. Maybe the last one could be the end track for the show, but. I'm at least going to pick the one that when the idea of Obscure came up or something, this is a good excuse to play this track. So this comes from the game Spark the Electric Jester 2. And the track title is Floria Highway and it's composed by Paul Bethers. welcome back. You're listening to the Floria Highway stage theme from the game Spark the Electric Jester 2, composed by Paul Bethers. So, this track has been one that I've been eyeing to get on this show for quite some time now, actually. So, this is one of those hilarious moments where I do reviews with SML, and every once in a while, the host, Joe, will kick over a track, or rather kick over a game for review that I have never heard of. I had no genuine interest in initially, but I'm like, I gotta try this out. This is the type of game I should be reviewing, games I've never heard of. And I put it in, played it, and it pretty much plays like an homage to like the 3D Sonic era, most particularly the earlier days of the modern 3D Sonic era. So that means like, winding corkscrews and such in nature, and of course 90s butt rock, as they say. So it got kind of funny when it was time to do the review of the game proper, because though I did play a good chunk of the game, I really just did the Floria Highway stage 20 times because I just wanted to keep listening to this track over and over and over and over again. I became obsessed with it to the point where I literally put it in my pocket, and the moment I had a topic that would suit it, it was coming on the show, and this is the one.
All you needed was a little micro tape recorder. You can be like, note to self, need 90s butt rock, and then put it up to the TV.
Done. But sounds like you guys enjoyed it a bit too.
I was super into that. You into that, Chris?
Yeah, it was good and funky. Like I said, it kind of reminded me of, well, of course, Sonic music, but also like the Toshiba EMI soundtracks for games like Sword Maniac or Civalian, which are some obscurities that one should look up, because they're very bass heavy and like very funky, but also just good old rockin' music.
Stuff I like.
Yeah, really rocking. The bass is really, really cool. I love it. It's like a very synthy slap bass happening through this track, and the drums are super loud. So I feel like this sounds like, it just makes everything sound this track super loud. Like everything is just crammed together and is full of energy, and it is the ultimate Purnell track.
Oh yeah. Though I will give a fair warning for the one person or two that's like, I might have to try this now. If you like the modern Sonic games, but one of your big complaints was the fact that you had a lot of scripted moments where Sonic wasn't in your control anymore, this game shows you why that happened. Because crazy loops and stuff, full control, which means you got to be very precise, because if you can't pull off that speedy corkscrew, you're going to run off the side.
So is there a lot? So it's almost like the irritating stick, right? It's just you're trying to thread that needle.
Pretty much, you're trying to thread that Jester.
That's right. No, the game wasn't the Irritating Maze. It was called the Irritating Stick on the PlayStation, I think, which is even stranger.
So it was the same thing. I was wondering, I know I've heard of the Irritating Stick.
Yeah.
Zombie John Brown. See that?
That's a new one on me, Purnell.
My dad used to say it, and it makes me wonder who the heck was John Brown. But it carried over from my childhood.
I just assumed it was a Simpsons reference at this point, if you say something.
Van Johnson's definitely a Simpsons reference.
All right, Chris, Taylor, John Browns, what's going on? What's your next pick?
I have to look. What did I pick?
Well, you have a few. You have a few, so...
Oh, did I put that NSYNC game in there? No, I don't know that I want that in there.
You don't have to. You can do the other one. You can do the other one.
Yeah. This next track is Otaku no Seiza on the Famicom. It is an RPG, kind of a humorous RPG, and as I understand, this is the ending credits theme.
Do you know the composer?
I don't.
Mr. Otaku.
I might could find it, but
I couldn't track one down. So we'll just say it's unknown for now. But this was really cool when he sent it to us. Honorable mention, that NSYNC game has got a great soundtrack, and
it does.
A friend of ours, Michael Bridgewater, he does 24-hour kind of gaming marathons of weird and crappy games for 24 hours straight, and that was one of the games that's like the highlight of his runs, is playing NSYNC,
really?
Get Me to the Show. Yeah. All right, but before that, let's get to the show, Purnell. Let's listen to
NSYNC.
Otaku no Seiza track 2 or the ending credits theme for the Nintendo Famicom. You are listening to the ending credits theme, or track 2 from Otaku no Seiza for the Nintendo Famicom. And I was just telling Chris that there's a lot of really interesting sections to this music. How did you discover this one?
Okay, so this was actually one that I discovered by accident while, just going down a YouTube rabbit hole kind of thing. And the video that I found was in Japanese, so I didn't know what game it was, and I don't remember how I even found out. I guess I just eventually, there was this long period, I want to say about 2 months, where I had heard this song, and I was like, that song is so good! And then I lost it somehow, and then I had to find it again.
It was unique. It was a very unique sound.
A very unique experience. Oh, bringing SMLN jokes in over here.
Have to. We'll bring it up later. We'll tell Rob about it in a few. He'll love it.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm always up for that.
Rob Nichols smiling politely.
Yeah. But, no, it was one of those things where it's just I was looking for songs that I wanted to cover with Gimmick, which is my main video game cover band. And I always look for things that are melodically really substantial and have a cool groove to them, but I'm all about melodies and harmonies, and especially the way that the square waves, I guess, kind of play with each other. And that song was just absolute ultimate. I was I could never play this on a guitar, but and yeah, it just stuck with me forever. And of course I brought it up in the group, and weirdly enough, in the last year, a lot more stuff has cropped up about Otaku no Seiza.
Oh.
For one, it was a Turbo CD game as well.
Oh, now you got my number.
Yeah, and a whole different soundtrack, but, and they also made an OVA anime of it, but I haven't been able to find anything translated. So I just watched a little bit of it, and it's just sexy adventure comedy kind of thing. Apparently the loose plot of the property is that, this is the future in space, but women have taken away all the rights of men, so it's up to the male protagonist to win back the rights of
God.
It's very MRA the game, but
yeah, I'm a little concerned about this one. I'm glad
in 80s,
yeah.
in 80s Japan,
it's up to Otaku no Seiza to set things right.
Right, which I believe the translation of that is kind of like the Dork Galaxy or something like that.
God.
The nerdy galaxy.
Yeah, I was wondering why it was Otaku no Seiza, because it's comedic. I think it's probably very tongue in cheek. There is an official, not official, obviously. There's a fan translation of the NES game out there, but I didn't have time to load it up before coming onto the show today. Well, it's interesting you brought up the way the square wave channels interact with each other, because they can play with the duty cycle, which would be the pulse width. So they can modulate the pulse width, and when they have two channels playing simultaneously, they'll often offset the same note on two different channels, and so that the modulation between the two channels kind of phase in and out of each other, and it sounds like a chorus effect. It's almost not like a reverb, but it sounds like fuller. And when I hear that employed, even if by accident, like on an NES track, it sounds like so cool. Like even today, like back when I was younger, I was like, oh, that's like that's from the future, you know. And I hear that stuff. I hear that stuff today, and I get super excited. I'm like, yeah, I want that.
Yeah. You want to know what one of my favorite examples of what you're describing is? The intro story music to Totally Rad.
Yes.
That's a game to this day I've never played, but I always wanted to because the Nintendo Power made it look colorful and gnarly.
It's good. It's good. And plus it's got, that early 90s, Valley speak in it. So,
well, that was
radical.
Really entertaining.
That was Tim Fallon, right?
No, it was it's a Jalico game, and I don't recall the name of the composer, but it's the same person I think who made the soundtrack to Astyanax.
Oh, okay.
Which
that's how you pronounce that. I never got it. I used to go Astyanax. I just dropped it.
By the way, the Astyanax's title in Japan is so much better. It's called The Lord of King.
Oh, I would play that.
The Lord of King.
Yeah,
awesome.
Lord of King.
I love that.
There's only one king, and I lord over him.
And I'm the Prince of Duke.
Exactly. I think that it's the same composer. I could be wrong. Internet nerds get at me, I guess. Come infiltrate Hidden Sound Test and tell me how wrong I am.
Well, actually...
Don't do that. We like Chris. Chris is a good guy.
But I also like having the facts, and I don't like research, so sometimes I do like being corrected.
That's honestly, admittedly, that's an enjoyable thing. Like, my idea is that I'm all for people being like, just let you know, this is the actual thing. What I hate is when it's the other way, and it's not so much, hey, I just want to give you the heads up. It's more like, literally, well, actually, let me tell you something. You don't know as much as you think, I know. Like,
we get corrections all the time for the show.
And
we've been doing this long enough that we get emails, we get plenty of messages through Discord, and it's always welcome because we're gonna get it wrong, and a lot of the information that's out there isn't always easily found. So
be kind when you remind.
Oh my god, that's awesome. That's perfect. Exactly.
That's a t-shirt, actually. That's gonna be
literally, we have a listener in our that posts in our Discord named Electric Boogaloo, and he is notorious for providing legitimate critiques and feedback. And like, hey guys, just give you the heads up. That composer you mentioned, he actually only composed these 2 tracks, but the guy who composed the track that was on the show was this dude.
Right.
And it's like, there it is. Now I got a new guy I gotta look up.
Yeah, it wasn't Koji Blondo, it was Koji Kondo.
There's a there's a necessity for a community when it comes to researching and coming up with really accurate information about video game composers, especially from back in the day, because that information is so cloudy.
Yes.
And there's some people out there doing great work. Actually, I wanted to shout out the Video Game Music Preservation Society, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
A great resource. The person who founded that wiki, it's a wiki of all kinds of composers and their work and stuff, and it's very well researched. I actually accidentally ended up rooming with the founder of that at a MagFest.
Oh.
That's pretty convenient.
A MagFest.
No, we're hanging out.
Yeah, it was. I actually had mentioned that group, and he was like, "Dude, I founded that group." I was like, "No way!" So we became fast friends after that. So
that's good.
That's Dean, and shout outs to Dean.
It's like, well, now that I know that that's you, I have some suggestions on how you can further preserve video game music. And I'd like you to listen to them.
The way you're preserving music,
notepad.
I think we could be much better. I'm listening. All right, so my next track comes from another a random rare arcade game that I played way too much of. This is called where is that? War: Final Assault. This is an Atari developed arcade game. It's a first-person shooter arcade game that could be linked up to a bunch of machines and had the worst ergonomic controls ever.
Oof.
But the music is incredible. It's this really heavy industrial, techno type stuff, and it's adaptive to the game. So we're going to listen to a bit of it and then let it continue on while we talk, because there's lots of parts of it that have been snipped together that I found. So the person who put this together, well done. The name of their channel is literally just War Final Assault. So I guess someone put all the work together and made one channel, put it all on there, And then, I don't know, called it a day, said, like, my career's over.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So grim. He could have said, hey, my career's going to strange new places.
No, I meant my YouTube career, you know what I mean? That's it. I'm done. I'm out. All right, this is a hide and seek from War Final Assault for the arcade, composed by Michael Henry. You're listening to Hide and Seek from the game War Total Assault for the arcade, composed by Michael Henry. And for some reason, I thought Michael Henry was like the name of an actual like the front man for some industrial band like Front 242 or something like that. That Ed Wilson from another podcast would be a fan of. But no, he's a Foley artist and a sound designer who worked at Atari for a while. So that kind of makes sense given all like the sound effects going on here. And he worked on games like San Francisco Rush 2049. I think we all remember that one.
Oh yeah,
maybe, yeah.
There's nothing obscure about that bad boy.
No. But this one's really strange. Like there aren't that many first-person shooters that made it into the arcade. That I guess that you would really see, especially back then. Yeah. But it worked really well. It was very competitive. It felt very much like almost like GoldenEye. Like in that way that it was very communal, but to move the character, like instead of a mouse on your right hand, you had like a flight stick, and that's okay. But on the left hand, where you would have like the WASD control to move around, it was these three giant like arcade push buttons, and they were so far apart on your hand that like if you got into like this tournament or if you got into like long sessions with some friends, like it was just the worst.
So like you'd like move your whole hand over from button to button, or you could like spread your fingers.
Yeah, you had to spread your fingers around to like strafe left and right and stuff like that. And there's actually a song on this track called Circle Strafe, which is hilarious. But yeah, it's just super painful. But it was really interesting, and I think this is like a good example of like Atari still trying to be innovative in the arcade space. You know,
imagine playing poppin' music for years and then coming back to this guy. Probably be a champ at this point.
No way. The poppin' music you play with your whole hand and your whole arm and your whole body. Because those buttons are the size of my face.
They need to be popped.
But yeah, so I think last time we went to round one, they had some interesting like kind of first person or third person like arena fighting type games from Japan. But like that kind of made sense to me nowadays to do something like that, to try to make something like a competitive fighting game in that space. But to do this,
there was a really weird one that had what was it? It had like a Nintendo Wii nunchuck, and then the controlling the jump and all was actually like a something where I can't remember what you would call the tech. I guess it was just like a infrared line or something where you put your hand over it, and based on whatever like hand gestures you made, determine what you did. It was such an odd concept.
Yeah, it was an infrared camera, and it would read your hand like motions, like literally your hand motions to do like moves.
Gunslinger Stratos.
Yeah, that's what it was called. Yeah, really, that's another interesting one. I tried playing that with you. I don't know if you were there, but I know our friend Ian was there, and we were like, this is the coolest looking thing ever. And like, wow, this is really, there's a lot happening. Am I winning? I don't know. But yeah, so this is really, really cool. I mean, Atari's always tried to do new things in the arcade, so yeah, I kind of miss those days.
It basically played like you were doing one-handed Naruto ninja move hand gestures constantly. It's like, what'd you do? I just jumped and shot.
It was like, well, we got this technology. How can we like put it into a game to do something with it? You know. But
my kid likes this new show that's on the internet these days. Maybe we should work with that.
I mean, I like buttons. I've never really got the handle on touch controls, like on the phone. You know.
Touch controls, I think, a specific type of games make use out of them. Like the DS did a really good job of showing when a game really actually can benefit from touch controls and when it was clearly shoehorned in.
Yeah, well, like on the iPhone, there's lots of platforming games and stuff where there's like a controller on the screen. You can move left and right, but like it's so hard to know where your thumb is if there's no like feedback on the nerves of my fingers. To be quite literal about it.
You literally just reminded me of a game I need to grab off the Play Store. I bought it back when I first got a cell phone, and bought my first game. Now I gotta remember what the heck it was called. It was you play as a literal. No, that was a great game though too, but it never came out on my platform. It was an Apple only.
Yeah,
that was like Mr. Magnet or Master Magnet. But this is a game where you are a Mexican jumping bee. Yeah, because that was clearly on the nose. But you played as a Mexican jumping bean, and you were going from level to level. You were constantly, perpetually jumping. But you could tap the screen to determine when you moved left and right. Mm-hmm. So it was all about controlling the pacing at which you jumped to avoid enemies and look for the hidden Quetzalcoatl statue. And it was cheesy, and yet for some reason the amount of color and the concept just made it fun to play. And if I manage to remember what the heck darn name of the game was, I'm going to re-download it because
I know
paid for it.
A whole generation of people out there who are like, yeah, it's fine, you know, it's on the phone and I can just use my thumb and I can play, you know, Fortnite or PUBG and do really well with it. But like, I don't know, like I that's why I have like two like, you know, fighting game joysticks like sitting right next to me, and like I need like to feel things, to do things, and I know that my generation will die and no one will care anymore. Anyway, Pernell, we are on to your second track.
I found it. It's called Bean's Quest. Because that's on the nose.
Oh, Bean there?
Done that.
Going to
all right.
Gonna go Beantown?
Going to Beantown and then some. But my actual track is not from Bean's Quest. It's actually a track I'm having trouble deciding, but I feel like at the end, the second track I had would probably be better suited for the end of the show. So I want to go with this one that would not work at the end of the show, but is also great. This comes from the game Duck Game.
Yeah.
And the track title is called Backwen, and it's composed by Landon Podbielski. Oh yeah. Welcome back. You're listening to Backwen from the game Duck Game, composed by Landon Podbielski or Podbielski, depends on how you pronounce it. I don't know. I've played this game on the Switch, though I wagers on other consoles as well. This game is fantastic. This is another example, and for the fact, fun theme here, every track from this show, with the exception of my bonus round track, is actually also from a game that I ended up reviewing. I did not expect the click would be like it did. But Duck Game has been one of the most played games I've played since I reviewed it. It is a multiplayer game. I think Adult Swim Games actually published it. And it pretty much sounds like a straight up like a series of tracks that used to be, or that would have been in Comic Zone or something, and just didn't quite make it. But that's probably why I like him so much. And it's just like an arena versus game where you are characters, all ducks, and you are doing a deathmatch style battle where you pick up different weapons that are hidden in either question blocks a la Mario or hidden indestructible objects. And weapons range from things as simple as a pistol or a shotgun to the Moon Knight's gun and chainsaws and armored knight sword, armor and helmet and a shield and sword and like jetpacks. And it gets really, really ridiculous. And when this track is playing, because it rotates various tracks as you play through the game, and it's all about like first to get like 10 wins or so.
Yeah.
But when this track is playing and I'm on a winning streak, oh, I get cocky as all get out. It ends up being a blast. We're sitting there playing, people are yelling at you, and you get that victorious win, and a ding, like, yep, that's it. Let's do this thing. Let's dance and shoot. Dance and shoot. It's such a fun time.
Is it
and
dance
it's one
and
of those
shoot or dancing shoes?
Dance and shoot with dancing shoes.
Okay.
It's just one of those games where I admittedly say, if I didn't review this or someone didn't tell me about it, I would have ignored it. Like, there was nothing about this game that I've seen just in advertisements that draw me to it. But in execution, this game is freaking glorious. Every sense of the word, and the music is a large part of why that is. It's a stellar OST.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's got that great like FM synthy guitar sound that I really like. It's a little less harsh than it is in like Road Rash or Skitchin, but it definitely has that feeling to it. Do you have any
Sonic Spinball?
Yeah, Sonic Spinball. Do you have like any nostalgia for that kind of grindy, heavy sound, Chris? Because it's
Oh heck yeah!
I know that
Heck yeah.
some people are on the fence with that because it's a little divisive.
No, it's FM is great.
It's grimy in all the right ways.
Yeah,
Give me those FM songs.
it's raw, man. It's raw. All right, so I'm going to turn this track down, and we're going to get into the part of the show that Pernell and I, we like to call this part of the show a little something, the bonus round.
The bonus round!
That was the worst duck voice I've ever done.
I had no idea you were going to try your Daffy Duck on me.
No, that was Donald! Donald!
Oh, jeez. Well, okay. We'll try it.
Like, that was really terrible.
We'll fix it later in post. And it's just going to be Donald being like, I need magic, or what is he screaming Kingdom Hearts all the time? He just yells.
He just yells random crap.
I gotta say, I really love the new DuckTales show, which of course was canceled. But anytime that Donald Duck was on the show, I got him confused.
It's amazing that you had to stop and think about it. Every time that famous duck without the pants.
Yeah, the one
Yeah,
without
we've been talking about Daffy, so I can understand that.
But anyway, every time he comes on the show, I have no clue what he's saying. Like, I don't know. I have to have subtitles on to figure out.
It makes you feel kind of bad for him, because before it was literally just Donald.
Yeah.
So Donald spoke like that, and you just kind of assumed they were like, yeah,
he's got
this
a
is what
duck
we
bill
imagine a
for a
cartoon
mouth.
duck would sound like.
Yeah.
And then they introduced his uncle and the kids, and every other duck speaks normally.
Yeah. Perfect.
That casts a huge light on Donald.
What happened?
What happened to Donald?
Look, I urge you to be more compassionate to Donald Duck because he had a stroke.
That's all I can think of, because it really just casts a huge bright light. Like, why does Donald talk like this, but none of the other ducks do? And they've never acknowledged it on any of the shows. Like, Donald, we can't understand you. Slow down.
All right.
I'm too angry.
Wow.
They do on the new series a little bit.
I do that.
Oh, they do.
They take some playful jabs about it.
Oh, man.
They're like, one of the things that Donald, like, that makes Donald so angry is that he thinks he can't be understood or something like that. They say it in like a psychology type like
funny.
Framing, but it has that double meaning.
I was watching the first few episodes with my cousin Rachel, and I was literally pausing the show, and she would translate for me, and because she's like a Disney nut, and then I would watch it again, and I would stop and be like, Rachel, what is that? She's like, no, he said this. I'm like, I can't understand that. Anyway, this tangent,
professional Donald translator.
This tangent is brought to you by Rhythm and Pixels. So the bonus round is where we play covers and remixes and arrangements on the show based on the theme that we have today. And Chris brought something I am really happy about.
Yeah, accidentally. I had no idea.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce this masterpiece right here?
Sure thing. Okay, so this is I do video game cover music. My main bands are Gimmick and Super High Tops. That's high like hello, which is a Toe Jam and Earl reference because all we've officially done so far is a Toe Jam and Earl cover. But anyways, so I do play video game covers with groups, but this was a collaborative compilation to a very dear friend of mine, Deirdre, who got married this year, and a whole bunch of friends from the Shiz forums, which is the Mini Bosses fan forum that turned into its own like kind of community. They put together this album of tracks as a wedding gift kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
And this is a song that I really liked because she had covered it before, and we're both big fans of Neil Baldwin, and so I actually took it upon myself to basically just make my own track. So this is actually just got my name attached to it, and Kev Ragone, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who is another mutual friend kind of thing. When I handed it off to the person who was putting this together to mix it and make it sound good and everything, he brought in a drummer, much to my delight. So this is not a drummer I've met, but everything but the drums and the production are me on this track. And this is a Neil Baldwin track. Neil Baldwin is one of my favorite video game composers. It is a song that appears both in Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge and James Bond Jr. on the NES.
What?
Yeah, it's
James Bond Jr. version is sped up. But,
it's sped up a little bit, and it's called like the love theme from James Bond Jr. or something like that.
Yeah. Funny enough, they tagged it on YouTube as an unused track, but a friend of mine, actually the drummer for Gimmick, Justin, he played all the way through James Bond Jr., and he found out that if you beat the game twice, the song does play during the second ending.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
So it is an actual in-game song. It's just very obscure.
Was it worth playing twice?
Yeah. So
it's almost like Ghosts and Goblins or something.
Yeah.
But the version I covered is the podium theme from Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge, which, due to in-jokes, I called Ferrari Ham Prix Challenge.
Which I like.
And, yeah. So that's what this is.
All right, let's give it a listen.
Glazed.
That was Ferrari Ham Prix Challenge. The podium theme from Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge, composed by Neil Baldwin and arranged by Chris Taylor with Kev Ragone. Chris, I really, really enjoyed this, and thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Oh, thank you very much. It's actually the first video game cover that I recorded by myself, kind of thing. I usually have to rely on people who are much more technical than I am to record me. And I know that the DIY aspect of video game covers is really super normal in the community, but I myself am kind of a dullard, so this took getting over some anxieties for me to actually hit record on my own guitar playing.
Oh, sure.
Well, I bet that just made it that much more special when they heard it on the album.
Yeah.
Well,
they were totally into it. Yeah,
it's one thing to practice parts over and again, and then you got the track set up, you hit record, and then it's just the pressure's on. You got to get it right.
Yeah, and I reminded myself actually, because I didn't say this before hitting play. Shout outs to Deirdre and to Greg Council and Steve-O. They are the fellow admins of Hidden Sound Test, and they helped me they've helped immensely, keeping it to a consistent experience of greatness
and
instead of letting it run ragged all over the place.
And it's kind of funny too, because for all things considered, the rules there are fairly straightforward. It's just if you post, it has to have a track associated with it. You can't just post random text.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that I was part of plenty of these online groups, meant to appreciate certain things, whatever. I'm in some of those groups now, and I just noticed the trend that every single time somebody comes up with this great idea for a group, it immediately or not immediately, but it eventually turns into over time. It turns into just text only conversational editorials and completely off topic stuff, and that tends to make everybody's engagement with the whole thing go way down. And
very true.
So I was like, well, if I'm going to make my own group and we're going to really, and I'm going to dedicate this much time to watching over it and all this stuff, because I personally like every post. I click on every single post that goes up in that group. That's been a rule since day one for me personally, is that if you post anything in that group, one person's going to like it, and it's going to be me.
That's a very wholesome. That's wholesome as all get out right there.
Well, I
like that.
And but the flip side of that, of course, is that I have the one rule, which is always have music. It has to always be from a video game, because I didn't want there to be confusion as to whether this is a cover or an official arrangement. So it was people really wanted to post official arrangements. We considered not letting them, and then we were like, whatever. Official arrangements are fine, but fan arrangements. Actually, Deirdre started Spiked Beats.
Oh, I joined that one too.
Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our sister club. She started it literally so that we can point people to it when they want to post fan remixes in Hidden Sound Test.
Nice.
And that's its own party. I actually have no finger in that pie. That's a terrible metaphor.
No pony in that race. We'll go with that.
There we go.
No alcohol in those beats.
No ham in that Prix.
Ooh, I got a good ham and Prix sandwich.
Ooh.
All right, that has some other meanings here. So we're going to go to our next track here. I picked a track where I think of obscure music and an arrangement of obscure music. The band Steel Samurai is the first one that comes to my mind. So this is
which Deirdre has done guest vocals.
That's right.
The circle comes together.
All comes together.
Steel Samurai is one of my favorite video game bands out there. I have all of their albums. I bought them all on CDs, and I got handwritten notes with them, which is super nice.
Because you, sir, are a person of quality taste.
They play live. When they play live, they're so much fun. They're just having a blast. They play really well together.
Lots of energy too.
Yeah, fantastic people.
All right, so I chose the Air Zonk medley. I think Air Zonk is suitably obscure.
Yes.
Since, I think Purnell's the only one who's ever owned TurboGrafx in the Wilmington area. In Delaware. So this is, they called it Zonk It. This is from Steel Samurai from the game Air Zonk. That was Zonk It from the game Air Zonk, arranged by Steel Samurai. Oof.
Zonk it good.
I've totally
Amazing.
forgot that they kind of blended it right into Beat It by Michael Jackson right at the end there, but it just fits too well. You know, they just kept it going.
Oh yeah, they're great about that.
We just
They're very, like what I was mentioning during the break that I had their Criminal Justice System album on my desk here, and they did that with one of the songs there where they slipped in the Law and Order Dick Wolf theme.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of their songs, which is really awesome.
I like at the end. I should say at the end, composed by Dick Wolf, but I don't know.
They always do, actually. At the end of that song, they always say produced by Dick Wolf.
Yeah.
It's just so good. And the thing that makes me sad is like you always get that one person in the crowd that's like, "Who's Dick Wolf?" I'm like, "Get out, get out!"
Oh man.
They're fantastic, man. I love those guys.
All right, Purnell,
And they play board games.
what's the track that you brought to the show for the bonus round, my man?
Well, to be perfectly honest, you covered Steel Samurai, so I felt secure there because I was like, well, obscure bands or obscure music has to include those guys. But since that was done, I actually decided rather than going for a cover, I was going to pick a track from an obscure game that you probably can't even buy anymore. But I've always been fond of it, most particularly for the lyrics that would play while you played the game.
I remember you playing this one.
Yeah, I was obsessed with this game. This is the rock theme because all the tracks in the game were basically titled after themes, like rock theme, haunted theme, blah, blah, blah. And it's from the game Poker Smash, originally released on Xbox Live Arcade for the 360. And I think it died there, unfortunately, because it deserved more love than it got.
A lot of games were born and died on the 360 platform.
Oh, yeah. That
And
thing was the
that's-
king of indies.
That's the height of obscurity for me because I didn't have a 360 when all that was current. I got one much, much later. So anything Xbox 360, I'm not going to know. So,
Like, I'll say flat out deep down before even going into the track proper that I feel like for everybody's dealing with it, there's all console war stuff going on back and forth, but I stand by the belief that it was the Xbox Live Arcade and the 360 platform that made it so that indie release games became such a big force on home consoles. Not Steam, consoles.
yeah.
Because they're everywhere now. But back then, they were really only on Xbox Live. So I don't know the composer for this. I could not find it. I just went by the developer house, which was Void Star Creations. So.
All right, let's go.
Right on.
Poker Smash. Poker Smash.
It's microscopic. Kaleidoscopic on you. It's telepathic. I know what it is that you're coming into. I try to walk away. Can't lay my money down.
welcome back. You're listening to the rock theme from the game Poker Smash. And apparently Rob has deets on this that I missed something sad and fierce.
All right,
so go for it.
Yeah, all there are 10 different like themes in the game, like Pernell described, all different like musical themes, and they're all composed by David Sease of the band Stretch Armstrong. So I think he performed some of this music with the band Stretch Armstrong. So Stretch Armstrong was a band from 92 to mid 2000s. I think they did like punk rock or kind of heavy punk rock type stuff. So yeah, I don't know anything about them. I think it's a great name.
Oh yeah. And for those who are like too young to know, Stretch Armstrong was also a 90s toy that was pretty much a really buff like guy that could stretch.
He stretched his arms
and
out.
he just stretched them. He stretched his arms, pulled them apart. So Poker Smash.
He wasn't just especially limber.
No.
Nope. He was purely elastic.
He was like
he was Luffy before Luffy.
He was like He-Man, but he was also a yoga master, you know.
In the how. So like Poker Smash, and I think it's based on the break I've learned that Chris will probably love this game if he comes across it somehow. It was basically Tetris Attack, but instead of just connecting matching shapes and whatnot, you made poker hands. So it was all the suits and cards numbered from 10 to ace. So 10 Joker, 10 Jack, Queen, King, and Ace were available on the board. And you basically shifted the parses around, made your combos. But the thing that made it different, surprisingly, aside from making poker hands to break the blocks from Tetris Attack, was you could also do two things. You could slow down time temporarily, and you could also, after filling a gauge up, you could drop a bomb onto a block and intentionally blow it up. What this made for was, though it was a challenge, it was not easy to do. Though I think Rob may have even watched me do this once back in the day when I was like, you gotta check out this game, man. But you could essentially make an infinite combo in this game. But it took a lot of work because, again, if you use up your bombs, you had to actually get enough charges up to get a new bomb, so that if you found yourself in a bind, you could drop a bomb to buy yourself some time and then slow down the gauge in order to do it again and again and again and again.
And after cool combo system.
It was really great. And after every couple of, points or whatever, if you got enough points on a stage, you would get you go to another level. And when you go to a new level, you would get new music to accompany the stage. And early on, it was just cool to discover what new tracks were going to show up on the next level, because I like pretty much every music track in this game. This one and the Mine theme are the ones that stand out the most for me overall. But I like every track. And even once you got to hear them all, even though despite most of them being vocalized, you didn't get tired of them. I just liked hearing it every time it came up in the game, which made it more than worth its while for me and more than worth the money I spent on it back in the day. But of course, every time I mention it, people's like, hey, you're a Poker Smash? Like, poker what? I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah. So yeah, even in the Wikipedia that I found, I said that the developers would have like these Tetris Attack tournaments with each other, and so that makes sense that like if it's kind of a similar mechanic. But I never got into Tetris Attack. Maybe I just never had the opportunity to really get into it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. After you, good sir.
I was just gonna say, I definitely. My mom picked it up because she liked Tetris back in 1995 or whenever. And she saw it at Walmart, and she was like, oh, I like Tetris, I'm going to buy this. And so, obviously it's not Tetris at all.
No.
It's panel swapping, panel de pond. And, but we all got really into it. And so I had been playing it since it came out, and I've actually won local tournaments of it and stuff. So
oh, cool.
It's like the puzzle game for me. And yeah, it is true that if you have two people that are any good at Tetris Attack, they will make a competition out of it. There will be a tournament.
And don't let Rob throw you off too much. He's perfectly fine with this game, except he only knows it primarily as the game Planet Puzzle League, which we used to get into.
Oh
yeah,
okay. Yeah, that was Panel de Pon. Yeah, we played that a lot. I was terrible at it, but it was fun. It was good.
It was great. And the stylus, that was another example of touchscreen mechanics.
Yes.
Making the game so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, that really... it kind of broke the game for some of us who are already really good at it, because being able to match that stuff up so much quicker. But ever since it became Pokemon Puzzle League in the Nintendo 64 days, they've just been piling on all these much more difficult tiers, And so like each version of this game has like its own crowd. Like I'm really good at Tetris Attack, but I don't think I can like compete in Pokemon Puzzle League.
Oh, wow.
Not yet anyway.
I wonder how many people even use the cylinder mode, because that was the big claim to fame that Pokemon Puzzle League had, was the 3D version.
Yeah,
And
it's really good too.
it's hard as the dickens, though.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Well, for
But,
more,
like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it was like, it just gave me an excuse to say, you know what I really want to plug, and I wish more people played it, was Meteos.
Yeah, I was going to
another-
say Meteos. Like, I was just thinking, like, you talked about touch controls being, like, perfect for puzzle games and how they really made it work. Meteos,
Yeah.
we would play Meteos, you, me, I remember Mike, and my wife, Christy. We would just play, like, constantly.
It was addictive. Have you ever played Meteos, Chris?
Only briefly. I never had it, so, you know, I just played it, like, somebody would hand it to me and be like, here, play this. And I'd be like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool, but I kind of have to learn it.
Yeah, that definitely has an interesting learning curve despite the rules.
Definitely that panel swapping situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But for more information on the bonus round part of our show, go to rhythmandpixels.com, where we'll have links to everyone's Bandcamps and SoundClouds and everywhere where you can listen to this music, buy this music, and support all of these artists. All right, thanks for joining us on episode 25-10 of Rhythm and Pixels, Obscure Music in Obscure Games, with Chris Taylor, the king of obscure music, right?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Lord of King.
The Lord of King of obscure video game music. Anyway, thanks for spending some time with us tonight on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. It was like such a good fit.
Heck yeah.
A great fit. It's always awesome, like when you're genuinely interested in the topic, first of all, and also like the music. I feel like has been really strong on today's show. I've liked everything we've played today, except for Purnell's music.
Well, gee, man, I try so hard.
No, I like it all. Yeah, this is fantastic stuff. We're ending on music from Izuna, Legend of the Unemployed Ninja. This track is called The Snake Hole, which sounds like a bar that I was thrown out of when I was in my 20s. No, I've never been that wild. But yeah, it's just really good stuff. So we want to tell our listeners anything else where they can find you online, or anything you want to plug for band
the main thing that... Sorry, I just started talking before you were done talking. The main thing is that I am on Twitch 5 times a week, twitch.tv/LiarExaggerate. That is LIERXAGERATE. I play mostly RPGs. I'm also really obsessed with Skyrim, and like that's coming back. I like to play really stupid builds on the game's hardest difficulty. But anyways, that's where you can find me most nights. And then if you want to hear more of my music, you can check out Gimmick Video Game Rock Band. That's gimmickvgm.bandcamp.com. And we're also on Facebook and Twitter as Gimmick Band. And right now I have a group also called Super High Tops. We're working on stuff actually right now. And you can just find us on YouTube by searching for Super High Tops. And our one thing right now is we did a live playthrough of every song in Toe Jam and Earl in one go. So it's like a 15-minute track.
Yeah, I remember you actually sent that to us like a couple months ago, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm really into it.
Yeah, it's been really fun, and like I really wanted to do something that ambitious without not to knock it. I just wanted to try and see if it could be done without doing the playing against a track, like miming track, or like recording it beforehand, or like splitting it into different videos. I was like, let's play every single song in one medley and do it live, like in front of the camera, and that's what we did.
How many did it take any takes, or was it like a one and done?
No, it's
it's like, what do you think this is?
The one that ended up on YouTube is take 3 out of 6. So we did it 6 times that day.
That's still pretty freaking slick.
we practiced it a lot beforehand.
Yeah,
so
that's
it took us months to actually put together. So
actually, it sounds really, really great. I'm going to link to that on the show notes on the podcast
thank you
and
very
on
much,
the website. I really enjoyed it.
it's probably the best thing I've done, really. Like, I'm not gonna. No, I love everything I've done. Honestly, I love Gimmick and I love Super High Tops, and I'm starting to dig doing my own thing too. So. It's all good, and those are the best places to find me. And of course, Hidden Sound Test. You can find that on Facebook. It's got a URL. It's facebook.com/groups/Hidden Sound Test. Or you can just search it, join it, but don't go making any topical posts without music attached to them because it will get deleted.
Yeah, don't go on this Facebook group and promote your podcast or anything like that.
It's the most important rule. Not that I never done it. I did that or anything.
It's very rare that we'll make an exception for when people do that. It's usually when composers get on there and do it that we're like, ooh, we won't delete this.
Mr. Gonzalez, I just need you to know that you need to put a track on that.
I will say, Mr. Gonzalez has been perfect as a member so far, so...
Oh, no strikes against Mr. Gonzalez. Huh.
No strikes.
Well, if you'd like to contact us on the show, me and Purnell, if you have any track suggestions, topic suggestions, or if you're in a band or if you know a band and you'd like for us to know about them, the best way to do it is to send us an email.
rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com.
And for a full track listing from our show, all of our shows, and access to all of our episodes, check out the website.
rhythmandpixels.com.
We're on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's Rhythm and Pixels, all one word. You can check us out on youtube.com/rhythmandpixels. There we have a 24/7 radio station playing nothing but 8-bit and 16-bit classics and deep cuts. It's due for a playlist update. So, Chris, I'm going to come to you in the next couple of weeks for any track suggestions for that.
I love track suggestions, yeah.
It's
bring it on.
So only 8-bit and 16-bit music there. That's been going for, I guess, a couple of years now. So check that out.
Since the 90s, at least.
What's that?
It says since the 80s, at least.
Just like
Oh, yeah.
And then, what else we got? We have a Discord server. Go to rhythmandpixels.com. We have a link right up there if you want to say hi to us there and connect with some other listeners. That's always super cool. And if you want to support the show, you can go to rhythmandpixels.com/merch. And from now until the end of the year, and probably for just a little while after that, if you use offer code PIXELS, PIXELS, you get 15% off your next t-shirt purchase. Another way to support the show is through Patreon, patreon.com/rhythmandpixels. As a member, you get access to a weekly prequel episode of me and Purnell catching up on the news of the day or of the week or whatever. Just goofing off, and we got some special stuff this week. We did some really goofy stuff for another show that I think you'll enjoy. You also get access to a monthly live streamed episode where me and Purnell record a show live in front of our Patreon audience. So you kind of get in on the sight gags, the physical humor, and we kind of joke around with you in the audience and play games.
The pure gooberdom.
It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing those every month. It's usually at the end of every month. And that's for all levels of our Patreon. You can just sign up and dig right in. We also like to thank the top tier level members of our Patreon, which is at the end of every episode. Frankly Zappa, That Nick Walker, Mike Myers, Ed Wilson of the VG Embassy, Mats Holmqvist, Michael Jennings, Davey Cakes, Justin Schneider from ex-VGM Radio, Sonic Medley, Taco, Harold Howard, Dave Taylor, Reinhard Zelkova, Andreas Mielberg, Dan Loughton, I said his name correctly this time.
Yes!
Sleepy S'more, Steve Miller, The Autistic Gamer 89, Cameron Worma, Christopher Senstrom, Bobby Arson from One Up Funk, Wicked Sephiroth, Carlos, Kung Fu Carlito from the Heroes 3 podcast, which is a Asian cinema and kung fu movie podcast, Michael Bridgewater from the excellent, one of the best podcasts, the Forever Sound Version show, and Brian Pitt. So thank you all so much for your continued support of our little program that we do every week. Good seeing you
Thank you for being wonderful, awesome, genuinely cool individuals.
That's right.
Pet cats and cool kittens.
Our live show for this month is going to be at the either at the very end of this month, which will be at the very end of this year, or the beginning of 2021.
Did we pick a topic?
Wow, no, but I mean, I don't know, man. if we do it on New Year's Eve, if we actually do the show on New Year's Eve, it's not like we're going anywhere.
That's pretty much the case.
Yeah, it could be music to drink to or something. I don't know, something silly.
How about this? Let's hammer them both out, and it could be a combo depending on what we get tracks from. It could be music to drink to, whether celebratory or otherwise.
Celebration, yeah, right.
Or winter, your choice.
Or fire, dumpster fires. You know, how you feel about the rest of this past year? You know, I'm feeling hopeful for next year. I'm getting a little more hope back. But
Yeah, same.
Anyway, thanks for listening to me rattle on for a little while. I want to thank our guest Chris again for coming on our show. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
And the name of the show is Rhythm and Pixels. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Purnell.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
And remember, folks, video games are a pretty booming industry, which means that advertisements are always through the roof, hitting you in the face with the big hits of 2020, 2019, blah, blah, freaking blah. And what that typically ends up meaning is that you are generally just waylaid with what is intended for you to play to move the big sales of the season. And while there's nothing wrong with that, because I myself play a ton of big wonder hits, there's something to be said about digging a little deep into the carts, or these days, the data, and coming across the not too well spoken of games. The ones where they're just kind of being made by a guy or five, and they just want you to try their product. Maybe some Nintendo eShop, or the Xbox Live Store, or the PSN Store, or even on your mobile. But the point is, dig a little deep. Come across some of these odd little wonder games. Because I can tell you, there's something especially satisfying. It's great to come across a game that you read about in a magazine or that was pushed on TV, but there's something special about finding a game that was not presented to you in any way and coming away from it loving it, like just being enamored with it. And then it's even better to share it with your friends. This cool trove, this magical title you just stumbled across that you now have to tell all your friends about. But you won't be able to discover stuff quite like that unless you start digging a little deeper, dig beyond the veil, and see what you can find. It's awesome.